So we've got the tent pitched. It is now snowing. It's been snowing on and off all day, but it seems to have really come in now. So hopefully it's going to be a good test for the tent to see how it copes with these kind of conditions, really, and also a test for the sleeping bags as well. Hopefully we're not going to get this kind of weather on the southwest coast path when we're on there, but you never know. So we survived the night in the new tent. So this is a ultralight backpacking tent. It's made by 3-4 Gear, and this is the Lanshan 2. And basically the 2 stands for, it's a 2-person tent basically. We've been looking for a while. We've had lots of different tents, but we were intrigued to try out a tent that utilised your walking poles, because obviously we've always got our walking poles with us, and it seemed pointless carrying a lot of extra metalwork poles and things when you've got 2 poles with you. So this was the first sort of extreme test. It went down to about -3. It was snowing on and off yesterday, and obviously we had snow when we were actually in bed last night, but we survived, and it was very, very comfortable and very roomy. So yeah, let's give you a few little tour around and show you a few little points that are really good and what we've learnt from it so far. So the overall tent, like I say, is extremely light. The whole tent is just about 1 kilo, and that includes the outer shell, the inner shell, and it comes with 8 pegs as well, which are pretty good actually. So that's this little storage bag that it comes in, and it compresses pretty small, but the pegs themselves are pretty good quality. They're these nice sort of X-shaped ones, so they're quite strong, anodized aluminium, with obviously a little pull cord and a little notch in there to hold your guy lines and things. And it comes with all these reflective guy lines already attached as well, which is really handy. And then the doors themselves actually have zips. I know some of the lightweight tents don't actually have zips and things, so okay, a bit of extra weight, but it does give you a little bit of extra scope. And they come with tie backs, so you can roll those up. And what we liked about this one, as opposed to some of the other lightweight tents, was it has an outer and it has an inner. Some of the tents you only get a single skin, so you could in theory put this up just the outer if it's raining and you just wanted to have a cup of tea and maybe eat your lunch. Oh, escaped. So yeah, that's quite a handy little feature really. Plus it allows you to actually take down the outer and the inner and pack them separately. So at the moment one of us is carrying the outer and then one of us is carrying the inner as well, just to sort of spread the weight a little bit. So it comes with this total mesh inside, so you've got a zip both ends, you can open both ends, both doors, so you can get a lot of airflow. We've got a little bit of condensation in here today because, like I say, it was pretty extreme temperatures. It's actually ice on the inside of the tent this morning, which is now warmed up and we're starting to get a little bit of melt. And it comes with this built-in ground sheet as well, which so far we haven't had any issues with. And it's about the perfect size to get 2 Thermarest Neo Airs in, the full-size ones. And they don't move around. It's a perfect snug fit, which is really quite handy really. We were thinking about buying the straps to join the Thermarest so there's no gaps, but to be honest, in this setup I don't think you'll need it. And we're using Lois's 2 Lecky poles, and we had to play around with the sort of heights. I think we've set this, I think this is about 120 at the moment. Yeah, 120 setting on there, and it works really quite handy. So you just pop your walking pole in, and pretty much it stands up with just the 4 corner pegs, but obviously a bit of added security and strength by putting up these guys, which have got this little reflective strip in there as well. So when you're walking around with your petzl on at night, you're not going to trip over those. But yeah, last night was an extreme test. A little bit of condensation in there today because we didn't actually have the doors open because it was snowing at the time. But on a normal night, I think you could get plenty of ventilation through there and not have any issues with that condensation really. But so far, very happy with this tent.
So as Ben said, we were super impressed with this because it's not a top-end price, but you're getting a lot for your money. We did have a little bit of condensation because we didn't have any of the doors open because it was snowing really heavily when we went to bed. So a few drips, but we've had a lot of condensation in our expensive tents, so that wasn't a deal breaker. It's reinforced in the corners, which is great, makes it really strong, just down in here. And you've got one pocket that you can put your phone in, or I put my glasses in there at night so I can find them if I need to get out in the night. And it's got these little connectors, I don't know if you can see through the mesh, that sort of hold it onto the fly sheet. If it was really windy and you didn't want it connected and you wanted this to flop in more, you could just slip that out and it would hang lower and there wouldn't be any sort of touching of the two layers. Great with the two mesh, two zip doors, so you can get out either side without bothering the other person. But so far, really good. And using the two poles, which luckily at the height that they're set at is the height I use them at anyway, so I don't have to fiddle around adjusting them in the morning. Take the tent down in the morning, it's super quick. Just stuff it in the stuff sack and pick up the two poles that are left on the ground and off you go. So what's really good is these adjusters on the cords, is you just pull that little bit up and then you've got total adjustment on those, and they really hold really well, so no messing about with those. And two adjusters there. As Ben said, it's got 8 of these lovely little pegs, and this is a little bit of fluorescent stuff on there as well that you can see at night. It does actually need 10 because you've got these two that come out, one either side, but we just improvise with a twig when we're on the trail or here, because we just grab it from the bushes. But you could obviously carry 2 extra pegs if you wanted to. But that seems to work for us, or you can tie that to a tree or something. And the same thing up here. I've got the walking poles because I'm always carrying those with me anyway, but you could just cut something on the trail like you would just cut a branch for a little walking stick yourself, and you can just put those in. Or you can put a little bit of cord through these super duper little tags here, and you could tie it to some trees so you wouldn't need any poles at all. So that is massive advantage, and it just gives you some versatility really. And also it's got these really nice adjusters on the corner, really easy to use. Just pull that up and then tighten it so you don't have to get the peg exactly where you need it. And also it's colour coded, so you don't put your peg through the grey bit, you put it through the orange bit, and that leaves that fully easily adjustable. With the tent is this nicely made little plastic toggly thing. It's pretty specific, but we don't exactly know what it's for, but we're going to use it for just holding the door open for extra ventilation. So we're just going to unzip the door on a night where we need extra ventilation but it still might be raining, and hook it on there, and that will just keep the door open but keep the rain off of us. But if you know exactly what that's for, then let us know.
So, not to keep going on about the separate layers, obviously having the fly and the separate inner, but what we have found with tents that you can't separate those 2 layers, if your tent is wet on the outside or the inside and you dismantle it and then bundle it up in the stuff sack and put it in your bag, even your dry inner then gets wet basically when it's in your rucksack. So the beauty of this is if the weather is inclement, you could actually disconnect the inner, pack that into your bag, totally pack all your rucksacks and stuff, leaving the fly up until the very last minute, then pack that down and basically pack that separately. Also the beauty is they're so light that basically you can just get them out when you've either got a bit of a breeze or the sun comes out when you're on the trail, and then you can dry off the necessary parts of your tent. So far I think that's the option that we're going to take. Keep them as 2 separate pieces and then dry them on the trail. So hopefully we're going to be testing this out on the southwest coast path. Hopefully we're not going to have snow, yeah, it's nice and light. It's allowed us to carry a few other options because we're going to be about maybe a couple of days between sort of major towns, so that we're going to be carrying more supplies with us. So saving a bit of weight on the tent is going to be a big advantage really. So yeah, we'll maybe give you a little update when we're back, if we survive the trail. So that's a little intro to the Lanshan 2 that we've just been testing out. This is the first trekking pole tent that we've ever tried, so we didn't want to go straight in to get a very expensive one. Wanted to see if it was going to work for us. So as a budget sort of entry-level trekking tent like this, they vary, but around £100 is the sort of price for something like this. They fluctuate a little bit. But yeah, rather than committing and going for like a full-on $500 Z-Pax duplex tent and not really knowing whether it's going to work for us, I think this is a great starting point. So yeah, so far pretty happy with it. Certainly happy with the pack size and how heavy it is. So yeah, hopefully that's given you a little bit of pointers if you're looking at a trekking tent like this using trekking poles. So hopefully that'll give you a little bit of an insight, because we were looking for extra information online and there was various different videos, but not really giving you an overview of what it was all about really. So hope that helps, and hopefully you'll enjoy using your tent out on the trail.